Sylvester Stallone handles success with a grace that makes it seem like he's always been famous, but he wasn't always a star. Stallone struggled many years in the shadows before he claimed his place in the spotlight.
I think that all the years when he had trouble as a kid, and people telling him he was stupid and skinny, and the problems he had with his father, just made him stronger.
Stallone literally created his powerful body and his amazing career. His personal story is as inspiring as his on-screen adventures.
I'll never forget the Rocky movies and the way he come from behind.
Millions of moviegoers are aware of his physical prowess, but only a few know that it's Stallone's inner strength that has helped him deal with the pitfalls of celebrity.
The journey through celebrity, in many ways, is the most challenging and the most, has been for him, you know, trying at times, because he is so sensitive.
I think that it takes an incredible determination and a great faith to be able to survive the force that comes against you when you want to achieve anything to a great level.
He achieved international fame by creating characters who never gave up, no matter the odds against them.
People say, what was the greatest fight you've ever seen? And I'd say Rocky 1, 2, 3, and 4.
During this hour, you'll see that Sylvester Stallone has a lot in common with his never-say-die characters. It's revealed in his determination to prove himself again and again in the public eye.
If Sylvester Stallone hadn't created Rambo and Rocky, there would be no modern action movies.
I think when I grow up, I want to be like Sylvester Stallone.
But there are many more intriguing aspects to this surprisingly complicated man. You'll see them revealed as we follow his growth from a frail child fantasizing about costumed comic book characters to his emergence as one of film's greatest superheroes. And we'll hear how he endured years of poverty in his quest for fame and fortune.
We used to live in a house that was so hot and was so poorly ventilated that she would get nosebleeds while cooking from the heat.
We will celebrate his so-called overnight success and see that stardom did not automatically bring personal happiness.
I don't know if he imagined becoming an icon, which he certainly is.
From his Oscar nominations as screenwriter and actor in Rocky to his critically acclaimed performance in Copland, Sylvester Stallone has evolved as an actor, as a filmmaker, as an artist, and as a family man. His life and career will be shown through photographs and film never before seen on television. Moments from his most memorable movies and original interviews with Sharon Stone, John Travolta, Bruce Willis, and former President George Bush, and those who have witnessed Sylvester Stallone's rise from a childhood in Hell's Kitchen to become one of the most successful movie stars of all time. And you'll hear from Sylvester Stallone himself in an exclusive interview in which he talks about his remarkable journey. This is Sylvester Stallone's Celebrity Profile.
It's like I've been exposed to the radiation of love. You know what I mean? It's like it's too late. It's terminal.
Sylvester Stallone was born to Frank and Jacqueline Stallone on July 6, 1946, in a New York City charity ward. During his delivery, interns used forceps that damaged a facial nerve, affecting young Sylvester's appearance and speech. The first 3 years of his life were spent in a boarding house, only seeing his parents on weekends. The other child from the union was a younger brother, Frank. Their parents divorced by the time Sylvester was 10. And Jacqueline took her two sons to Philadelphia. The future movie muscle man grew up a lonely, skinny boy.
Like many individuals, I think I grew up with a rather colossal size self-consciousness. I did not feel that I was contributing anything to the human race. So I was slight, I was thin.
At school, young Sylvester was teased about his name. He received poor grades and attended 12 different schools by the time he was 15. Since then, Sylvester has embraced adventures where mild-mannered loners could turn themselves into superheroes.
I didn't feel that I had any extraordinary or even above average abilities. My schoolwork also suffered because I was very distracted and hyperactive. And I found myself reveling in the discovery of these new comic book heroes. For example, Superman, at that time I was so overwhelmed with that my father, who was in the hair business, I had taken one of his barber capes, cut points in the end, dyed a T-shirt, put the S on, I'm sure it was backwards, and literally leaped off the roof with an umbrella. Now, not that I ever saw Superman use an umbrella, but if he had, he might have still been around. And I crashed right into a barbecue pit that was under construction and broke my collarbone, broke my forearm. As I reflect back on them, on many of these incidences, because I did many, which eventually landed me in a lot of hot water, I was constantly trying to test my fortitude and my courage, because I didn't think I had any.
Although he was unable to pay attention at school, Sylvester was a great student of movies, and they inspired him to improve himself.
I had seen Steve Reeves in Hercules, and I had a prepubescent epiphany. At that time, I went, that's what I would like to model myself after. Even though I realized, of course, that it was more than a tall order, but the mere idea of this kind of mythological figure, but still in flesh and blood, overwhelmed me. We had never seen anything like it. It was just extraordinary. And from that moment on, I had some sense of direction. I began to become physically aware of the challenge that lay ahead. In other words, try to build something from this rickety thing I call the body.
He found another role model in the film Spartacus, starring Kirk Douglas. The story of a slave rebellion in ancient Rome made a lasting impression on young Stallone.
He became the precursor to superheroes. Inadvertently, I mean, Spartacus you would not think would be the stuff that comic book heroes are made of, but at that time, that was his domain, Spartacus. It was, you know, because we had nothing else at that time, you know, and then the Vikings, you know, and he played it again with such panache that I couldn't but bond with that image.
In between trips to the movie theater, Sylvester earned an athletic scholarship to the American College of Switzerland. The year was 1965, and at the age of 19, Sylvester was calling himself Mike Stallone. While playing sports in Switzerland, he found time to act in school plays. This new interest led him to the University of Miami, where he plunged into theater full-time. College roommate John Hertzfeld recalls that Mike Stallone's biggest challenge to becoming an actor was his voice.
When I met him, he stuttered. He had a stutter and a stammer, which he literally overcame by listening to tapes. He would take a real tape recorder, and he'd basically quote and speak long passages from Edgar Allan Poe, who's his favorite author, and Walt Whitman. And he got rid of his own stammer.
But that was just the first of many obstacles Sylvester Stallone would face on his 10-year quest for overnight success. He grew up in a broken home and did poorly at school. Sports and determination got him into college. But Sylvester had more obstacles to overcome, recalls John Hertzfeld, his friend at the University of Miami.
He was evicted from his apartment in Coconut Grove, and I shared my place with one other guy, so all he had was a closet, which was available, and he lived in my closet for 6 months.
In 1968, college student Sylvester Stallone earned his Screen Actors Guild card as an extra on an obscure Anne Margaret film. However, when his teachers discouraged him from acting, Stallone left the University of Miami without graduating in 1969. He moved to New York City and worked several odd jobs, including a stint as an usher at the Baronet and Coronet Theater, where he met his first wife, Sasha. John Hertzfeld joined Stallone in New York. It was there, for the first time, Hertzfeld learned his friend's real name.
He did not let anyone know his name was Sylvester. He was Mike Stallone.
The two friends pooled their meager resources and turned one screenplay into an actual movie, Horses. This never-before-televised Western was one of Sylvester's first attempts at filmmaking.
It was about cowboy and Indian reincarnated 100 years later and seek revenge on the sheriff who hung them, who was also reincarnated.
He began to land roles and bit parts in movies while continuing to live in poverty. He was a subway thug in Woody Allen's Bananas and a mugger who robbed Jack Lemmon in The Prisoner of 2nd Avenue. In 1974, he co-starred in The Lords of Flatbush, along with Perry King and Henry Winkler. After Winkler's sudden success as Fonzie on Happy Days, Sylvester and Sasha moved to Los Angeles and were married on December 28, 1974. Although they had each other, their fortunes did not improve.
I look at people that had, you know, pennies and go, God, you're rich. You know, like, I mean, we were really broke. But she goes, do what you want. You know, we actually have poverty down to a science. It's okay. You know, we've learned to manage. It's all right, you know. I mean, we used to live in a house that was so hot and it was so poorly ventilated that she would get nosebleeds while cooking from the heat. You know, it was just, I mean, it was really, really tough.
It was while struggling to make ends meet in 1975 that Sylvester saw a real-life boxing event that gave him the inspiration for a new screenplay idea.
You know, with Rocky, it wasn't like a preconceived idea that I would come out here and be very successful. I really didn't think so. I had basically relegated myself to a working actor. Then one day, as fate would have it, I saw a particular event, a boxing match, with this great white hope, Chuck Wepner, who was given no chance whatsoever against, you know, the reigning champion, and he succeeded in losing with dignity. I went, very interesting. I've never seen that really portrayed on film. So I started to formulate this idea, and I wrote it, and I wrote it very, very quickly.
Stallone's performance in The Lords of Flatbush raised his profile as an actor. A subsequent acting audition with producers Irwin Winkler and Robert Charthoff turned into a pitch meeting for Stallone's new boxing story.
I said, okay, bring him in and we'll meet him. And when he came in to meet us as an actor, as he was leaving the meeting, he said, oh, by the way, I'm also a writer.
And went, really? Well, okay, bring it back. And if I hadn't turned my head and said I write a little bit at that time, the door would have closed and maybe that moment would have been gone.
Co-star Talia Shire remembers meeting the young writer and actor during this extraordinary process.
You know, you have to remember that this was a young man with a pregnant wife with very little money, but tremendous belief.
The script was presented. They said, oh, we want to buy it. I said, thank you very much. And at the time, I had about $106, $107 in the bank. I had already sold my dog because I couldn't afford them.
And he could have, at any point in that journey, sold the script for big dollars to certain actors at the time who were stars. And he and she, Sasha and Sylvester, hung on to the piece.
I went to the studio and they said, fine, but we want Ryan O'Neal and Burt Reynolds and Robert Redford and like anyone in the world except you. And, you know, I understood that, believe me, because I would have said the same thing. And I went home to my wife and I said, really, they're offering $30,000. I said, no. Then they came back with $100,000. And I said, no. Well, anyway, it went up to like $320,000. And I'm like going, because I'm seriously financially flat.
He had a great deal of faith in us. He had a great deal of fortitude in turning down their $250,000 and a great deal of faith in our word that we would get the picture made with him.
And the casting on that literally was all at the last minute. People were falling out, taking other jobs, and the next person that walked in kept getting the job. I mean, there was Talia Shire walked in same night. Then Ken Norton was supposed to be a boxer. He quit to get into a superstar competition. Carl Weathers walked in, got the job. And he read with me, he says, I could do a lot better if you get me a real actor. I went, gosh, thank you very much. He thought I was just there to, like, you know, help out with some of the chores.
I read the script and I was very moved by the script. It was absolutely beautiful to read. But I didn't expect this extraordinary creature to come through the doorway.
So I went to Philadelphia full of dreams and whatever, and I was afraid to fly. I went there by train, so I was bleary-eyed. And so he walked down on the set, and my feet hit the pavement. I'll never forget, it was like 5 o'clock in the morning. It was Rocky now just starting to run towards the steps. First time out, and I thought, this is it. This is like the moment of truth. I wasn't given a shot. I always had to ride the bench. I never was allowed to play one time, you know what I mean? So that's really what the movie was about, and because that was exactly the feelings that I was undergoing throughout my life.
Little did he know that his low-budget film about a small-time boxer would strike a chord with people all over the world.
I'll never forget the Rocky movies and the way he come from behind and all the wonderful things that we admire in this country.
It was one of the first films that I went and saw multiple times. I probably saw Rocky 7 or 8 times when it first came out.
But I had no idea that I was in such companionship with everyone else, in such sync, you know, that it really is just something that was extraordinary.
Sylvester Stallone insisted he and only he play the title role in Rocky. He wrote the part specifically for himself. Making Rocky was a struggle every step of the way, but the heartwarming story of the underdog fighter who gets a shot at the title made Stallone a star.
Nobody's ever gone the distance with Creed. And if I can go that distance, seeing that bell rings and I'm still standing. I want to know for the first time in my life, see, that I weren't just another bum from the neighborhood.
It was a different arena that Sylvester was creating. It was one where a man encounters himself and goes the distance with his soul. And in that context, he also is dealing with love.
The film was nominated for 10 Academy Awards, including Best Actor, Best Screenplay, and Best Picture, against such competition as Taxi Driver, Network, and All the President's Men. The unknown actor who had endured years of poverty and risked the financial future of his young family, which now included his first son, Sage, was suddenly at the center of Hollywood's biggest night.
I had a bad omen. On the way over to Oscar night, my tie exploded in the car. I still was half Philadelphia, half tuxedo. So the driver goes, "Mr. Stallone, you want my tie?" I go, "No, that's okay. Nah, I don't think it'll make a difference," because I had never been to an event like that. So I put my collar on the outside and the T-shirt here, and frayed, and I really did look like, Joe Guido.
It was an unforgettable evening. Rocky won the 1976 Academy Award for Best Picture, but it presented Stallone with a seemingly insurmountable problem: what to do next.
Rocky winning the Oscar, first time out, it's like, thank you. It's like taking a swimming lesson, and next day you swim the Channel, the Atlantic Ocean, and the Pacific. You go, I've run out of oceans. You know what I mean? Anybody got any more water? Well, that, in the sense, how do you top that? You don't.
Sylvester now had offers to continue to write and act, which he did with Fist in 1978. That same year, Stallone made his directorial debut with Paradise Alley. Ann Archer was his leading lady.
He directs with economy, which I rather like. He doesn't go on and on. He has a very creative, right-on idea or thought, and he would just, he'd share that with you, and that was it.
Neither film came close to the success of Rocky, so Stallone got back to basics. In 1979, he made the first of 4 sequels. It was a hit.
People say, what was the greatest fight you've ever seen? And I'd say Rocky 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Other films followed, such as Victory and Nighthawks. But he only scored commercial success when he played Rocky Balboa. Rocky III made even more money than the first 2 Rockies. It looked as though Stallone was stuck with the character for the rest of his career. But he was freed from his creation in 1982, when he adapted a novel which had been kicking around Hollywood for years. The novel was First Blood. The lead character was a Vietnam veteran named John Rambo.
Rambo, again, was kind of an accident. This was a cursed project. Cursed in the sense that it had been around for 7 years, and it was a very formidable project. It was like we had never seen a one-man army turn itself upon its own master, its own country. I saw this as a modern-day Frankenstein, and I thought, my God, this is a very, very tough situation. I thought, this film will die. I'm going to make, I thought it was going to be an art film. I had no idea. When he said,
"It wasn't my war. You asked me, I didn't ask you. And I did what I had to do to win, but somebody wouldn't let us win. And I come back to the world, And I see all those maggots at the airport protesting me, spitting, calling me baby killer and all kinds of vile crap. Who are they to protest me, huh? Who are they? Unless they've been me and been there and know what the hell they're yelling about.
It was a bad time for everyone, Rambo. It's all in the past now.
For you! For me, civilian life is nothing. In the field, we had a code of honor. You watch my back, I watch yours. Back here, there's nothing.
You're the last of an elite group. Don't end it like this.
Back there, I could fly a gunship. I could drive a tank. I was in charge of $1 million equipment. Back here, I can't even hold a job.
Always thought, my God, that's true. It's the Frankenstein syndrome.
First Blood was a huge success. Between Rocky and Rambo movies, Stallone began to stretch his creative muscles. He produced and directed Staying Alive, the follow-up to the immensely popular Saturday Night Fever. With Stallone behind the lens, John Travolta felt comfortable reprising the role of Tony Manero.
You know, he was setting the tone for sequels. And I really didn't feel like the original Saturday Night Fever could be competed with a sequel. And the best thing to do was make it as kind of commercial a venture as possible, meaning not try to compete with the first one and just have some fun with it.
Stallone also co-starred with Dolly Parton in his first comedy, Rhinestone, a film he chose over the far more successful Romancing the Stone. But all of Stallone's previous films were about to be overshadowed by the sequel to First Blood, Rambo, in 1985. The film grossed over $150 million domestically and became a worldwide hit. The character of John Rambo was now a cultural icon.
I think subliminally I was going back to the Steve Reeves Herculean thing, and we started to inject that into the Rambo 2. And it became kind of, in third world countries, a symbol.
Rambo launched a new genre, one which would sustain Stallone and a new generation of stars throughout the 80s and into the next decade. Film producer Keith Barish, later to co-found Planet Hollywood, recalls Rambo's impact.
If Sylvester Stallone hadn't created Rambo and Rocky, there would be no modern action movies. So it's an extraordinary contribution.
He's made some films that I think will do that magical thing, and that is that will keep him alive long after he's no longer with us. He's made some films that are going to be around forever.
On screen, Rambo brought chaos to his enemies. Off screen, he brought a new set of challenges to his creator. In 1985, Sylvester Stallone's career was riding high. He had two characters, Rocky Balboa and John Rambo, primed for even more films. His movies had made him millions, but his personal life was in turmoil. Sylvester and Sasha's youngest son, Sergio, was diagnosed with autism. After several attempts to save their marriage, their 11-year union came to an end. Later, in 1985, Stallone met and married Brigitte Nielsen, a Danish-born actress and model. The pair co-starred in Rocky IV and Cobra, and quickly became tabloid fodder. Their highly publicized marriage ended 2 years later. Stallone buried himself in his work, specifically Rambo 3.
I think I became a little unfocused. If you're flush with success, after a while, I think that you no longer feel this need to sacrifice and work harder to keep what you have. You say, oh, I've got it down to a formulaic system where I can basically go unguarded and relax, and that's what happened.
Rambo 3 was not as successful as previous Stallone films. Attempting new projects, Stallone did not satisfy his action audiences with Lockup and Over the Top. Neither did comedies like Oscar and Stop or My Mom Will Shoot. But to co-stars like Sharon Stone, the transition to comedy seemed a natural one.
He's hilarious. He's just one of the funniest people I know.
He has an incredible sense of humor. He has that rare ability to make you laugh so hard that tears run down your face, and then he just keeps coming at you.
It was not only his humor, but his perseverance that got Sylvester through trying times.
Your dreams, your desires, your enchanted goals, this is the stuff your future can be made of. If you've got the guts to stand there and resist the opposition and the belief in yourself to push forward. And he has that.
This insatiable drive has led Sylvester beyond filmmaking.
From the very beginning, we always thought of him really as a Renaissance man.
Art is what separates us from things that live in trees and crawl on their stomach. I mean, that is the greatest accomplishment of mankind, is because art is, it's embracing, it's a life force, it's life-giving.
He's an artist. He's a wonderful painter. He, I think, is an excellent director.
Ron Meyer, President and Chief Operating Officer of Universal Pictures, and Sylvester's former agent, has seen Stallone's drive firsthand.
Including to this day, when he takes on a challenge, he succeeds. When he wanted to play golf, he became a first-class golfer. When he wanted to play polo, he became a great polo player. When he decided he wanted to do something, he made certain that he succeeded at it.
You can tell a lot about a person by his golf game, and I can tell you that Sly is somebody that likes to win.
Released in 1990, Rocky V did not perform up to expectations, although it gave Sylvester an opportunity to work with his oldest son, Sage.
One morning he comes to me and says, you know, my dad wants me to audition for this part. I said, great, Sage. I think you would be great.
I thought if anybody was mentally right for the role, because it's about a kid that's raised in the lap of luxury and has to go back to abject poverty, and there's a whole new world, and this is really what it would be for him, so he was terrific.
And he was really there for me whenever I wanted to, and he was like a drama coach. He was always there, and it was easy for me to work with my father, because he's my father.
I'm fascinated by his son. Now what's going to happen to his life, you know?
I want to do some acting, but I also want to do some directing and writing and producing. You know, I kind of want to follow my father's footsteps. I want to be, you know, a man of everything.
How about for you?
Well,
Time's up.
As the final chapter of the character of Rocky Balboa came to an end, Sylvester pondered his decision to do sequels.
If I had to rewind the clock 10 years, I would have insisted by people that are close to me that please push me into very unsafe projects, at least every other one. I think it's professionally responsible to not continue to remake the same film over and over again. You know, what's tonight? Turkey TV dinner, turkey TV dinner.
In 1991, Sylvester joined forces with two other action superstars, Arnold Schwarzenegger and Bruce Willis, to launch Planet Hollywood. Sly's biggest hit between 1989 and 1993 was the action-packed Tango and Cash, a buddy film co-starring Kurt Russell.
The shower scene started out as a joust. We were jousting in there. I mean, that didn't work very well. I was always winning, but I don't want to... No,
You can't lose it, use it. So.
We gave a whole new meaning to the word Irish Spring. Okay.
In 1993, Sylvester courted model and actress Jennifer Flavin. He also drew audiences back to the box office with the action thriller Cliffhanger. That put Stallone back on top. Little did fans know that the seemingly invincible actor who'd played Rambo was actually terrified of heights. At 1993's Cannes Film Festival, Sylvester's fame soared.
I feel very, very blessed to still be presented the opportunity to take some chances, because this is a cruel, cruel city, and, you know, the avenue of broken dreams and whatever. And it's true. It's true. But this is also a place where you can roll the dice at a very late point in your life and come up with the winning hand. You really can.
Stallone continued to enhance the action genre that made him rich and famous. In Demolition Man, Stallone co-starred with Wesley Snipes and a fresh-faced newcomer, Sandra Bullock. In Judge Dredd, the little boy who had dreamed of being Superman was finally able to step into a comic book all his own. For his most explicit love scenes ever, Stallone chose Sharon Stone as his co-star in The Specialist.
You know, when I worked with him, he really looked after me. You know, we were running through fire bombs and buildings blowing up and driving under a helicopter that was shooting right on top of our convertible. You know, he really knows that stuff. There's no one I can imagine doing that stuff with.
Off-screen, Stallone was briefly linked with model Angie Everhart in 1995. That same year, the Italian stallion heated up the screen in Assassins, along with the new Latin heartthrob Antonio Banderas.
At the beginning, I have to confess, I was kind of, not scared, but, you know, I thought I was going to find another kind of person. Probably because of his movies, you know, all these action movies, these action heroes, you know, so tough guys. And he was to be a very funny person. It was great working with him.
For more than 2 decades, Sylvester's action heroes triumphed. However, the men behind these characters had to endure the very real perils of international stardom.
Imagine 25 to 50,000 people all screaming at once.
Anywhere Sly goes is just chaos wherever he travels.
When I first became famous, I thought, I don't know what to do. I'm a mess. He said, oh, I've had every nervous disorder known to mankind. Shingles, hives, this, ulcers, this. Oh, come on. What, are you kidding? It's not like every time you walk down the street, everybody wants to beat you up.
Unlike a lot of movie stars, you know, he embraces his public. I mean, he understands the real nature of his business, his industry, who he is. I mean, he's a movie star. He knows who he is. He doesn't doubt who he is, even if his career could be up one day or down the next. It doesn't matter. He always has a certainty of what he is, who he is, and what he contributes.
But overall, people relate to him, and I think people want to know him and don't want him to go away. So I believe that he's part of our environment.
I've seen grown men and little children cry when they see him and touch him.
I think he handles it well, and I think he's really learned to handle it well, and I've taken a lot of inspiration from him in terms of how to deal with success and how to handle the very peculiar world of being famous.
You know what true fear is? Walking across a hotel lobby in Chicago and not one person asking for your autograph, you go.
Having long achieved fame and fortune, Sylvester began to focus on his life off-screen. Late in 1995, Sylvester resumed his relationship with Jennifer Flavin. They announced their engagement in January of 1996. Sylvester remained steadfast with his activism for the cause of autism in support of his second son, Sergio.
This is a charity that's very near and dear to me. I have an autistic son.
He also had another opportunity to co-star with his oldest son, Sage, in the film Daylight. Sage, by then 20 years old, had his own aspirations for a career in filmmaking. On August 27, 1996, Jennifer and Sylvester celebrated the birth of their daughter, Sophia Rose. Born with a hole in her heart, baby Sophia Rose underwent surgery.
Coming through the troubled times with Sophia Rose and now appreciating the fact that she took me through a harrowing experience which had like irreversible effects. It's like I've been exposed to the radiation of love. You know what I mean? It's like it's too late. It's terminal. I've become domesticated in a good sense. You know, I mean, where there was once, you know, very masculine things around the house, there's toys and squeaky dolls and stuffed animals. I said, my God, it has happened.
And I've never seen my father so happy before. He was just so happy. Like, oh, I've never. Sylvester Stallone? I mean, even me, I'm shocked, you know?
This international megastar had found happiness in his family life. And on May 18th, 1997, Jennifer and Sylvester were married.
Jennifer she's the finest woman for me that could possibly be. It's amazing that it took so long for it to sink in, but you know, I guess I was just bringing a great deal of history with me, and quite often we are the sum total of our prior experiences, and quite often those experiences aren't very good, and our loved ones, if they're truly loved ones, have to endure some long, arduous, difficult situations until they finally get through to that heart. Because the heart is encased in steel and scar tissue and ice, whatever it is. And if they can persevere, then you know you have someone that truly loves you, if they're willing to be subjected to so many emotional roller coaster rides.
Sylvester embarked on a roller coaster ride of his own when he was approached to join the all-star cast in Copland by co-founder and president of Miramax Films, Harvey Weinstein.
I always kidded him around. I said, Sly, if you do Copland, it's going to be more dangerous than that movie you did, where you're like crawling across the Alps, on a little tightrope and a cliffhanger. And he said, why is it going to be more dangerous? I said, because you're going to have one scene with Harvey Keitel, then you're going to turn around and do another scene with Bob De Niro. And the great thing about Sly, you give him a challenge. He rises to the occasion.
Listen, Sheriff, I'm really sorry to have awoken you from your slumber, but it's over. Hands are tied now. You shut me down.
No, listen to me. You're IA. That's why I came to you. You can do whatever you want. Remember you came to me and said, you want to be a cop? I'm being a cop now. I'm here. I'm
offered you
for some help. I need to do something. I need to do this for
Listen to me,
myself.
I offered you a chance when we could have done something. I offered you a chance to be a cop, and you blew it. You blew it.
You people are all the same.
Sylvester's performance was warmly received by audiences and acclaimed by critics.
I think Janet Maslin said it best, that when Bobby De Niro started off and Sly started off at approximately the same time in their careers, one went this way and one went that way, and who's to say, where they met. And the fact is that he gave an extraordinary performance that will hold up, just like the characters he's created in other movies will hold up the test of time.
And he was very good in this movie, and he said it himself, that's a choice he made. So, he's very honest about it and straight, and that's okay.
2 decades after the success of Rocky, Sylvester reflected back on his accomplishments.
It's tough to lump it all into one thing. Proudest accomplishment, of course, is what happened with Rocky. The most recent professional, of course, is what happened with Copland. I mean, it's 20 years later. And the emotional accomplishment of raising my children that have been, they've been trouble-free and wonderful and creative.
The actor, writer, director who in the past embraced William Shakespeare's verse, "To thine own self be true," in his quest for creative fulfillment, now approached his life in a different way.
I think that I'm trying to serve a few different masters, and those, in other words, the masters being, philosophically, the good film, the masters being the fans, the master being, spirituality, the master, being the love of my family and not trying to embarrass them. So it isn't all about me. It's about also trying to accomplish goals that serve many masters.
Sylvester Stallone, the underdog who began his life in Hell's Kitchen and cured his own speech impediment, continued to be celebrated for his contribution to film. On hand was his mother, Jacqueline.
He's still getting better. It's tough to stay making 20 years in this town, and still stay up on top.
In December of 1997, the Hollywood Women's Press Club honored Sylvester as the Star of the Year with a Golden Apple Award.
This serves as a barometer in my life. Obviously, I've made a few good choices lately.
His legacy as an inspiration to a generation of independent filmmakers, as well as his status as one of the world's greatest movie heroes, has made Sylvester Stallone a Hollywood legend.
When he goes for something, he's got the eye of the tiger.
I'm very happy to see that his life has taken this turn where he's doing this good work and marrying this terrifically nice woman and having a baby. It's great.
I think like a lot of strong personalities, he's got, something vulnerable underneath it. And some may see it more than others. I certainly see that side to Sly more than others might. And that's the side I actually like the most.
Well, I think his career has been incredible, and only the people that are jealous would say anything different.
Sylvester is going to emerge as the responsible artist, not just the productive, but the responsible one, because those are the same things he's realizing about fatherhood, and I think it's going to happen, so I can't wait.
His story gives everybody hope. It tells you that the impossible can happen.
I think when I grow up, I want to be like Sylvester Stallone.
I'm not sure I can answer the question as to how he overcame adversity and all of that. I guess it's just something inside a person that makes them want to go the extra mile, makes them want to accomplish their dreams, fulfill their dreams. But I do know him. I played golf with him. Quite an experience, I might add. And there's just something about him that where he projects a warmth and a friendliness, and maybe that helped him along the way. Maybe that helped him because he never got so big a deal